Welcome, partners in crime. It's great to see you today. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties and I got all flustered here. So, we are here today to welcome Wesley Smith, who had his first story published when he was just 16. More recently, Wes authored two horror novels as well as two crime thrillers, Some Kind of Truth and In the Pale Light. Today, we're here to talk about his most recent release, They Came at Night, which, by the way, I love that cover. It is crazy scary. Welcome, Wes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about They Came at Night?
They Came at Night is about a family who goes to a rental cabin in the woods, and while there, the main protagonist Sandra begins to notice there's something off about the cabin. There's something off about the woods. There's something off about the town. Just something weird going on, and it all culminates into this crazy story.
I have to be honest, it was very scary. There were a few times that I was like, I'm reading and I'm like, do I really want to do this? This is getting a little creepy.
Good, good.
You really pulled it out. Um, so, what inspired you to write They Came at Night?
Um, there was a story a few years ago, a true crime story about called The Watcher. I don't
Hmm.
know if you remember that story where there was
Yeah.
there was a um there was a couple who bought a home and then they started getting mysterious letters in the mail that said, "I'm watching your house." And that kind of kicked off where this story came from. So it's not directly tied into the story, but that's kind of where the idea came from.
Wow. So the cryptic message, They Came at Night, sets the stage for the whole chilling storyline. Can you
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about the themes of paranoia and survival that are, I mean, that's the plot.
Yeah. Um, because of what happened to Sandra, I don't want to give too much away to the
Mhm.
readers. She's already at this heightened level of her PTSD and trauma. So, she is already like, paranoid about everything. She's paranoid about corporations. She's paranoid about people. She doesn't like people anymore. She's a complete different, she's a totally different person than what she was before her incident. So, like when she gets to this town and she starts seeing things she doesn't like, everything is amped up. Now, is it in her head? Is it actually happening? And that's what we kind of toy with the whole way until, the big reveal finally comes around.
Now, Cassandra she was a victim of a horrific crime,
Hmm.
and she went to a survival camp to
Yes.
overcome that PTSD.
Yes.
Um, and that plays a significant role in not just the storyline, but in her personality. How did you approach researching that and portraying that aspect of Sandra?
Well, uh, there wasn't much research I needed to do
Mhm.
for Sandra in that aspect because I lost my mother when I was 18. I shut her off a respirator, and I really understood a lot of trauma that
Mhm.
that came from that. My whole outlook of Sandra was was what happened to her and how it affected everyone around her, not just her, but everyone, and how they looked at her and
Mhm.
how she looked at them now. And that was a lot how I felt when, my mom passed away. All my friends still had their parents because I also lost my dad at 12. So I had no parents by 18. I was still in high school. So I looked at all my friends and they had their parents. Christmas time would come around. They had family. I had hardly any family. So it was just like I used a lot of those feelings and how I felt people viewed me,
Mhm.
how I viewed the world at the time, which was not always the brightest, not always the sunniest. And it was a real tough time in my life, and I pulled a lot from what I was feeling in there and threw it into Sandra.
Oh yeah. Um, it- you really go into the way her relationship with her niece and her sister have changed,
Hmm.
and how angry people were with her for the choices that she made to
Right,
protect herself.
right. Yeah. And that's a lot what happened to me.
Mhm,
Because where I grew up, I had to actually leave the town where I grew up. I had to leave all my friends and I had to just go be by myself
mhm.
for years upon years to be able to heal and get over the trauma and the hardship of what happened to my in my life, so I could move on. And like I said, it took me years. I didn't go to any survival camp or anything like that, you know, but I did completely remove myself from society for a while, and not like not completely, but like I pretty much holed up at my house and I did not talk to many people, and I did a lot of writing therapy. So, you know,
It seems to have helped.
yeah. So, I still do that. Like most of my characters are traumatized,
Mhm.
and I think it's a way for me to work out some of the issues that I have. Um, but yeah, Sandra's very close to my heart in the PTSD form because I suffer from it. So it's something that it's very close to my heart. And yeah, she's I wouldn't say she's all me, but there's a lot of the trauma aspects of her. Though our traumas are very what happened to us are very different. Um, it's still trauma. So just pulling from that is how I came up with her.
Yeah, I loved that one of the things that she did to protect herself was to completely pull herself away from social media and the tracking devices and things that people don't think about as being making them accessible.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And that's something with me too, with being kind of a public figure now with my writing and stuff. It's hard for me sometimes to deal with the social media aspect and stuff of it. And I am more of a loner. I'm very much a someone who doesn't need to be seen. Like I like my writing to be seen. I don't need to be seen. Like I like being behind the scenes, you know. You can love my writing all you want, but I just like being behind it. But that it is what it is. So I do it. It is a tough thing for me.
now, are these survival camps like a real thing?
I don't know. I
Okay.
I'm sure there is something like that.
Yeah.
But um I didn't really want to go in and look up survival camps and stuff like that because I just wanted because I knew where the story was going and I knew how I wanted Sandra to go. It was kind of made up, and you know, um, so if there is, maybe I don't know, but I wasn't trying to this wasn't a novel where I was really hammering home reality. I was trying to have some fun with it a little bit too, because my last two novels were so dark and so depressing that I was like, I need to do something a little bit more fun.
This is fun.
Yeah,
It was
this one was
scary.
fun for me. I had a great time. you the last novel I dealt with a guy through the whole novel that had cancer through the whole novel, so this was a breeze.
Okay, sure. So what we know is real is the rented cabin in the woods. So, and that is like the entire tension of the story because they're in the middle of nowhere. They've got no access to like normal, like even grocery stores and stuff. They are out in the middle of nowhere. Can you tell us a little bit about your decision to place them in such an isolated spot?
Yeah, Really, because I wanted to cut them off because I knew what was coming up in the story without giving it away to the readers. Um, I knew I needed to cut them off. I had to completely remove them from society. So, this story can play out,
Mhm,
and because it's so easy now with all the technology we have to contact someone, and it's like I have to get rid of all of that, and that's not always easy. Even out in the middle of the woods now, you can still a lot of times still use your cell phone. But it was like, so I wanted to completely take that away. And Sandra already not having a cell phone adds into that, because she
mhm.
doesn't believe in having a cell phone anymore or social media or any of that. So, Emmeline does, but you know,
Yeah.
so, but yeah. So I just wanted to get all that out of there. So, and it makes it more challenging for the characters then too, of how are they going to get out of this.
Yes. So they came at night. Some of my reviewers have said that it's got relentless tension and a nerve-shattering climax. So without giving away any spoilers, because we definitely don't want to do that, can you give us a hint about what readers can expect from the shocking ending?
To I hope they walk away being satisfied, um, because it's a bittersweet ending. It's not it's not a conclusive ending. So I'll just say the ending is bittersweet.
It, it's emotional. It's
Yeah,
definitely emotional. Yeah, you absolutely did a great job with this one.
thank you.
Um, yeah. So you combined it's kind of a psychological thriller, and it's definitely got a lot of action in it. So how did you balance the two genres while you were writing and keep it from being too much of one or the other?
Basically, I did it because I knew if you actually open the book up directly in the middle of the book and I set it up like this, the book changes. From chapter 17 on, it's a different book.
Mhm.
Chapter before chapter 17, it's a psychological thriller. Chapter 17 and on, it is a different book. And like I set it up that way, so it's like I forget what the word page count is, but it's right in the middle of the book. And I always had wanted to do a book like that because I wanted to build attention to a fever pitch, and then when things change, it changes from there on out, and it's like, oh, this just became something else. And I love stories that do that and do it well. I'm trying to think of a movie or something, that does that, and I'm blanking off top of my head, just trying to think of a uh, From Dusk Till Dawn, maybe that's kind of one. With George Clooney, the Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino written Robert Rodriguez film. You think it's a crime movie for a while, and then all of a sudden it's a vampire movie. You know, so it's like that. I like that switch of things, although that had no influence on this book. But that's just one I was trying to think of that had a switch like that. Like you don't see it coming. If you had never saw it before, you didn't know
Yeah,
that was
it's a
going to
pretty
happen.
hard and fast switch.
Yeah, 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 it is. And I wanted it to be. Like I wanted it to when it happens, it hits hard and it hits really fast and it changes. And you're just the whole all of chapter 17 is its own thing. And like that whole sequence is like 20 pages long. And it
Mhm.
just goes and goes and goes and it's relentless.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So
I wanted it that way for readers because it's just like this barrage of this is happening and I can't stop it from happening, which also makes Sandra as helpless as the reader feels.
but then she has a choice to make, which
Yeah,
navigates the rest of the book.
Yes,
Um, yeah.
yes. And she already has that little inkling in her, which I have set up through the beginning part of the book. There's
Mhm.
always that, I think I refer to it as her monster that's just in there, you know. So it was just once it's unleashed, it's unleashed.
I mean, but she has the Mama Bear um, personality towards her niece,
Yes.
very much. So she comes a little close a few times because her niece is, I don't want to say in peril, but you know, she sees some things that just aren't kind of right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Sandra, her name is Sandra Leigh. My aunt's name was Sandra Leigh Smith. So
Oh,
she's actually based on my aunt. They don't look alike, but my aunt was I'm very close to my aunt, and I even dedicated the book to Sonny and all the aunts out there. Um, so yeah, my aunt was very much Mama Bear with me. So that was just something that I brought in for Sandra to be the same way with Emmeline. So
yeah, it
yeah.
was pretty wonderful. Now, what do you think sets this apart from other psychological thrillers or action books that you've read or
Um I think it's just because it's honestly it's different from any of the other ones because I don't know if I've ever read a psychological thriller or an action book that goes like this. And that's usually what I try to set out to do is everything I write, I try to think, what have I read? What have I seen that haven't seen or read before? And it's like, that you we're at the point now where stories are, every story has been told. It's just now we got to find new ways to tell these stories again. You know, you're, you know, it's the truth, and it's just like how can I put my spin on this type of story, and that's usually what I sit down to do is put my spin on this type of story that the things that interest me, in this particular story, what I was with everything that's going on, what I was really interested in was the PTSD issue and the effects of everybody around Sandra, and her just complete mental break. That was what really interested me about the story, more so than any of the action or any of the suspense and stuff. That's what I was really interested in exploring.
and she makes a real journey from the beginning of the novel to the end of the novel.
Yes, yes, yeah. She's a different person from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. Um, so can you share some of the challenges of and the rewards really of writing in all of the different genres you've written in? Because you've really crossed a lot of genres the last few years. And although I know you haven't like written all the books in the last few years because you've just been
Yeah,
publishing them in the last few years, right?
yeah, yeah. I started publishing. I self-published in 2013 was my first. Was along
Mhm.
came the Tricksters, and then 14, and then I took a break and started writing crime. Um, just each book comes with its own challenges.
Yeah.
Um, some kind of truth with its subject matter was pretty tough.
Mhm.
And what we were talking about in the pale light was tough because it's a very personal novel. A lot of that is based on my dad,
Mhm.
and his nature, and then the cancer thing. Him have the main character having cancer that came with its own set of hardship. Uh, so every novel is just kind of different. I don't really have trouble writing in different genres, with exception. Uh, I don't think I can write sci-fi. I don't, and I know I can't write romance and or comedy. I couldn't do those. Um,
Mhm.
they're just in a broad genre, not getting into subgenres. But in the broad genre, I couldn't do those three. I just could not. I would have no idea how to do those. Um, uh, because I don't work really like that. I like darker stories, so like I'm more attracted to darker stories. Uh, but yeah, they each have their their own challenges, their their own rewards. I think the reward is just getting it done. you know, is
Yes.
just finally getting it done and being like, okay, now I can go to the editor, to the publisher, now I can get out to the world. I think that's the biggest reward you can take away from it. And also maybe, each book you have a learning experience. There's always something you learn, either how to write better or something you learn while researching the book, or, there's always something, you know.
And you mentioned personal growth. That's been a big one for you for each of the
Yes.
novels.
Yes, yeah, because I started with Along Came the Tricksters, which was self-published, and
Mhm.
then just kept working at it, independently published now, so I have just worked my way up and, hopefully continue to do so, you know.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah, it's
great.
been great.
That's weird. Um, so we really enjoyed Sandra, and you mentioned that she's kind of based on your aunt. What do you hope that readers take from her as a character and her growth in this book? I know it was hard.
No, it's just funny. I actually thought of a quote, and it's just like my 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 mind went to, you really shouldn't mess with Mama Bear, you know, or hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, you know.
I
So
mean, and both are true.
yeah, so that's kind of where my mind went, because when I was writing it, that's kind of the the mantra I kept in my head. Oh, you guys do not know what you're messing with. And
Oh, that's
I like that. I like that kind of dichotomy of, the external characters messing with the main protagonist, oh, you really, this was a bad idea on your part.
yes, it's true. So, can you tell us a little bit about what readers can expect to see from you in the future? I know you're always writing, and so hopefully you have more coming for us in the future.
Yeah, I'm working on a crime novel now called The
Mhm.
Summer of '98. Whether that stays the title or not, that's what it's called right now. Um and I'm on the third draft of it, so I'm still plugging away on it, and it's a tougher one for me to write, because I've never did it before. So, it's I'm not necessarily switching genres, but I just never did this kind of novel before. So it's just it's a challenge, and I don't want to do it if it's not a challenge.
So, how
So
many drafts do you normally do for a book?
I can do I can do up to 20.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because I like to have I want it where I want it. I'm not um like eager to get it published, because I want it the way I want it, and I'd rather wait, get it to where I want it, so I can put out the best that I can possibly do. So I will work on it and work on it and work on it and work on it until I got it right. Now, I say 20 drafts, but it could be more than that by as many times as I read through it. So it you could be up to 50 drafts of that, just reading through it. And then I listen to it too, because I like to hear how it's read back to me. So I want to hear how it's being read, and how it sounds as if a reader would be reading it aloud, or how someone else reads it, because I think it gives you a very unique um, uh, 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 insight into your language and how it's reading to other people, because it reads good up here. When you're reading it, it reads great, but when you hear it, it's like, oh, that doesn't sound right. So then I go back and fix accordingly, so it sounds better.
Now, do you also use readers to help you go through that and editors, and or is it
i
just
use
you?
I use one editor.
Really?
one editor, and I use who was at the publishing house editor. So usually two editors.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't like that idea. Yeah, because I know what I want to do, and I just don't need four or five different people giving me input on stuff. I need one really trusted person, and I have that to give me their insight, and she does an amazing job of that. So I I don't need more than that. I never have. I just need one person to really show me what's wrong, what I need to fix, and I'll
Mhm.
go fix it. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And not
yeah.
everybody can do that.
Yeah, I think it's just that, I wrote so many years alone and just thought about this stuff alone. And, because I'm kind of like, there's not a lot of writers where I live. There's a few, but it's my area is not really book friendly, I would say. It's not, it's just not that kind of area, and it's okay. But I didn't grow up with people doing this. Nobody else did this in high school. It was only me. But I've always read and I've always watched movies and studied all that, all everything I could. So it's just kind of intuitive for me. It's like I know what I want to do, and it's like that again, but that's why I do 20 drafts, because it doesn't always come out in first, second, third, fourth draft. I have to figure it out. And it's just I'm a vigorous rewriter. Terrible first draft writer, but I'm a vigorous rewriter, and that's how I end up getting what I want because it's like I know what I want. I don't do that. I don't have any little voice in my head that says the characters are leading me this way. That doesn't happen for me. It's I know where I want the characters to be, and I know how I want the characters to act, and you know the characters don't lead me. I kind of lead them.
So you have a real background strategy for everything before you start writing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I pretty much know what my characters, who they are. Um, uh, where they're going to go. Um, and sometimes I do find it like just by writing them, over and over and over. Sometimes, like I might be like, oh, this would work. I'll give you an example. Um, that I thought was going to work and didn't, and for They Came at Night. Originally, I had William, um, Sandra's brother-in-law. He was a police officer, and I originally wanted him as a police officer because I thought, oh, he's the manly man, of the group there. Nobody's going to hurt the manly man of the group. And then when I went to do the rewrite, I was like, it doesn't work. It's too much. It's this is Sandra's story. This is not about him. It should never be about him. And it doesn't matter if he's a police officer or not. That's not point of the story. So I just axed that whole subplot of him being a cop. And I think I had him in a shootout, and so he had some of his own trauma and kind of related to Sandra. But I thought, no, that you don't need that. It's better if Sandra's completely alienated. So it's just
Yeah, and she
sometimes,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. It's just sometimes you just gotta, I have a plan going in, but that don't always work out, and once you go back and revise the story and you're like, yeah, that's not how this needs to go. So I'm easy. I don't mind cutting stuff. I don't mind changing characters. I don't mind rewriting because, you can copy everything you wrote, put it into another file and save it for something else, you know, or like me, I just lock it all up here and I'm like, oh, I'll play with that later, that idea later.
So, and I didn't know this before, but some authors write each chapter as its own file. Do you do that, or do you just write the book in one document?
One document. And then when I edit, I take when I edit though, I take it chapter by chapter. Um, when I'm actually editing, not just with
Mhm.
reading through it, but when I'm editing, I'll take it chapter by chapter and then bring this chapter over, start working on it, and then if I need anything else, I just start cutting and pasting and moving stuff around. Um, but no, I write one document straight out. I don't do. don't do anything really strange like that. It's just pretty straightforward. I sit down, I type, you know. So I mean, I learned how to type on a typewriter. So like I'm used to having to work, with kind of what's in front of you. Like I'm used to that kind of work. So it's like, feed the paper in, type it out, feed the next one in, you just keep going. So, we didn't have files. You just kept going. That's because, I was poor growing up. So I had a typewriter though. So that's how I started.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've been doing some book events, right, out in the public,
Yes.
and can you tell us a little bit about those and how they're going?
Um, I haven't done any, have I? Yes, I have done two this year. Two this year? Yeah, I think two this year. Yeah, I was at Cupboard Maker Books in Enola in March, and then you and I were at Ice Cream for Mysteries in Shiremanstown in outside of Camp Hill, which was really fun. And
Yeah, they put on
I
great
have,
events.
yeah, I have coming up. I have Bound Books in York, PA, on the 19th. I have a signing there to kick off my little bit of a tour, um, in-person tour. And then I have M&D Books in Wyomissing, PA in, oh man, now you're putting me on a spot with dates. October, August 2nd. And then I have a big event in Lancaster, PA called Books, Books, Books. And
Oh, wow.
there's like I think there's like 200 authors there. It's a massive book event. So I have that coming up, and then in October I'm back at Cupboard Maker Books for a thriller horror author event that they're having on when is that? October 19th, I believe.
That sounds like fun. I haven't been to Cupboard Makers events yet, so I'll have
Okay.
to check one of those out. Those I've heard like really great things though.
Yeah, yeah, bookstore is really neat. They have kitties all over the place, which is great. So, and you'll be sitting there and Odin will walk by and he'll sit on your books and it's great. I love it.
That's terrific. Yeah, I can't wait. So I hope to run into you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be around.
And we can see more about your events on your social media so we can stop by and
Yes. Yep. WesleySmithBooks.com. I have everything listed there or W Smith Books on Instagram. You might be able to. I'm a little lax on Instagram, but Facebook, I'm usually pretty active on Wesley Smith Books on Facebook.
terrific. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Partners in Crime, follow along with the tour and make sure you grab yourself a copy of They Came at Night. Thanks so much and have a great day.